Hey everyone, this is Rahul here today, and today I have a former coworker. He is Ben, and I always called him the encyclopedia of football because he seemed to know everything about football, and he won last year's fantasy draft or fantasy football with some colleagues. So I wanted to bring him on. It's a little different podcast today, but I wanted to bring in someone that knew football in and out, and also I believe he played football in high school. So, Ben, thanks for coming on. It's been a while since we've talked.
Yeah, absolutely, man. How are you?
Good, good. Okay, so I don't know where to begin, but just looking at the first game of the year, the Bills versus the Rams, what was your opinion about that?
Surprise for starters. Um, did not expect a blowout. Thought it would be a good game. Thought it'd be a close game. Um, Clearly, the Bills' defense is a lot better, and the Rams are clearly out of sorts without Robert Woods, without Odell Beckham Jr., without Andrew Whitworth. Um, with Whitworth retiring, I think he was about 40 or 41. Granted, he didn't look like it. Um, all transparency, I'm 41. I don't think I look like I'm 41. Whitworth looks like he's about 10 years older than me. But Robert Woods going to the Titans, Odell Beckham Jr. being a free agent, the Rams offense out of sync. Stafford didn't look quite right. Got the ball tipped a few times. Cost the Rams some opportunities offensively. Um, and Josh Allen kind of picking up where he left off, and had the Bills actually won that game against Kansas City back in the playoffs, which was basically football porn, given the way that whole thing went, because it was just a back and forth, and it was just completely crazy down the stretch. I don't know if the Bills aren't the ones that are playing in the Rams in the Super Bowl, because as good as the Bengals were, it's altogether possible the Bills could have gotten past Cincinnati last year. So surprise is the first thing, for first and foremost. And I think the turnover margin was about even, if it wasn't actually slightly in favor of the Rams, and they still got beat by 3 touchdowns, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I had high expectations for Josh Allen this year, especially after that game against the was it the Chiefs last year?
Yep.
And yeah, that was probably one of the best playoff games that I've seen in a real long time.
Yeah.
Maybe the Chiefs versus the Patriots. Remember a few years ago we talked about that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was pretty good too. But I don't know how you score touchdowns in 13 seconds that Patrick Mahomes did last year. That was insane. I don't know how you do it. Yeah, but
the whole sequence of events to tie that game up and push it into overtime was completely, it was just ridiculous to hit I think the couple of different, I mean, they had timeouts, but to hit those seam patterns to Kelsey and set it up to tie that game and send it into overtime. And of course, with the way the overtime rules are, like that's the biggest issue, is that you hit these spots where it just doesn't matter half the time, because the team that gets the ball first is the team that typically wins. So that's the part that sucks in most cases, especially in the playoffs.
Indeed. Let me look at some comments right now. So Tim's Giants meme says, "Can't wait for UFC and football." Vintage Sports Card says, "Good morning," or "Good afternoon, gentlemen." Good afternoon. Steve, my man, I think we should all spend thousands on Josh Allen cards. That's what he's talking about. And I think you've missed the boat on that. A few years ago, that was the time to buy, when everything was dirt cheap. All right. Cam Akers and Allen Robinson bull jive McCabe. No, it was against Jackson Mahomes. That guy is something.
he's ridiculous too.
That dude is nuts. Him and his wife. I don't want to bash his wife, but
well, it's
Mahomes,
Patrick's wife and then Patrick's brother, and like it's just
it's
I
entertainment.
can't. Like I simply can't, because I was always told not to say anything bad about people if I can't say anything good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Don't worry, my podcast doesn't reach hundreds of thousands of people. Then I would obviously present my channel in a much different light. All right. Vintage Sports Card says, hearing Gisele may be single for the players out there. Impress her with your slabs. Okay, Sports Card slabs. So speaking of Tampa Bay, I was thinking out loud. I just did a video the other day, and I was saying that, hey, Tampa Bay will probably have problems with Tom Brady with his head not straight, because he obviously has marital issues and it's out in the open. It's not like, okay, behind closed doors, you could put it away. The media's not focusing on it, but the whole media is focusing in on his relationship. Then they may get into his kids, unfortunately. So what do you think with Tampa Bay? I know they have Julio Jones. That's a great addition, but I don't see them going far enough in the playoff. I mean, or winning the Super Bowl. I just can't see it. Maybe they can, but just based on all of this, what are your thoughts?
I tend to think that Tom is one of those that once he's on the field, he's laser focused. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I do think there will be some distractions. However, I think that they end up working this out, is my guess, as my phone starts to fall. So that's fun. I think they end up working it out. I think Tom probably retires at the end of the season, and you go from there. They'll figure that out. Hell, maybe it eventually does actually happen where he winds up down in Miami with some degree of ownership after this whole Stephen Ross debacle last year and into this year, and the idea that Sean Payton, Tom Brady, and everybody were headed to Miami, which of course was going to cost Tua his job, but eventually. But I think Tom is one of those that the outside noise doesn't actually affect him nearly as bad, and I think he's always plays with the same pick 199 chip on his shoulder. So I think Tom will be fine. I think the Bucks maybe are in a worse spot because they don't have Rob Gronkowski, because their starting center and then the guy that was supposed to back up Ryan Jensen, I think he got hurt in the last preseason game, I believe. So I think those are the things that hurt the Bucks more, and I think their defense might be a little bit worse for the wear, because I think Ndamukong Suh isn't. I think he's currently a free agent as well. So I think there are some plays where the Bucks can beef things up and get back to where they should be. But I think they'll be the team to beat in the NFC South. And I think you go from there. And I think they can make a deep run. But it also wouldn't surprise me to see Brady hoist number 8 in February.
and then he'll call it quits.
Yeah, why not? 8 out of 11 ain't half bad, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he said that he wanted to play to 45, and he's 45, I think.
45 now.
Yes, and now, he has problems with his wife, so I think this is definitely his last year.
Yeah, I think they end up, but like I said, I think they end up working it out. I don't think it's a big distraction, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we could look at some divisions out there. Maybe the NFC. Who do you think? Which division do you think's the toughest in the NFC? Off the top of your head.
NFC, probably still the NFC West right now. Seattle's going to be awful, but Arizona will be interesting, though I think they will find a way to screw it up by the end of the year. I still think San Francisco is so strong defensively that those are the things that are going to make San Francisco that kind of good and keep them in it through the end of the year. And the Rams, as the defending Super Bowl champs, I think they figure it out. Whether that includes them bringing Ndamukong Suh back to LA, them bringing Odell Beckham Jr. back, those are the things that I think make the Rams that kind of difficult. And I think they get back on track. I think the addition of Allen Robinson will eventually work out for LA. And we'll see. I mean, but that right now, like, I don't have any particular faith in the NFC East. The NFC South, Tampa would still be the team to beat. Obviously, Green Bay is the team to beat in the North. But what are you going to do with that? It's been almost 12 years since Aaron Rodgers made a Super Bowl, so why do I care? What faith do I have in that guy making a Super Bowl and Green Bay making a Super Bowl? When if he gets hurt, that team is a shambles. They are awful. As one guy said to me, kind of recently, who happens to be an NFC North fan, but not a Packers fan. He told a friend of his, he's like, you're one injury away from being a JV team. I liked what he said. I also think he's right.
So. I mean, look at my Bears. I mean, that is the I don't know. They were ranked as what, the 32 best team.
I saw that. I thought that was weird.
I mean, I don't know how they can win with Fields, and they don't have anything around him either. So it's not like me solely bashing on Fields. I just don't have confidence in him.
No, with Robinson gone, that hurts.
Yeah, that hurts.
I don't know if they're nearly as strong defensively as they have been in the past. Let's see.
Yeah, so let me look at some. Wait. Speaking of ex-Bears, Trubisky is with Pittsburgh. What do you think of that?
Sure is. Well, I think he is getting the week 1 start here, so I think that'll be interesting. I think Mike Tomlin can get a lot out of him, and I think that I forget the OC's name in Pittsburgh, but I just think that that's a pretty good matchup. I actually thought he was better suited to being Josh Allen's backup in Buffalo, just because I felt like, oh, these guys are similar. Maybe not Trubisky having nearly as strong an arm or being the same kind of size, but just the way they play the game, being out on the edge a little bit more, it works for both of those guys. So I think that's the interesting part. I think it's altogether possible that Kenny Pickett ends up picking up that starting job somewhere down the road here in his rookie season. But given the fact that Pickett was the only first-round pick of this past year's draft, and that I recently saw that there are no rookies starting week 1 this year, it's not really a surprise given the fact that Pickett was the only one, and I'm not even sure if he was the best one in that draft class. I think that's the interesting part. But I think Mitch will be fine because I think Pittsburgh just plays a complementary brand of football. So I think Mitch ends up doing just fine. I think Pittsburgh will continue to do what they do, and I think Mike Tomlin will continue to do what he does, which is not finish the season below 500. So my guess for the Steelers is 9-8. Probably miss the playoffs, but they'll be fine.
Yeah, I forgot they had 17 games because when you just said 9-8, I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? But rules change.
It's a big enough change, but it also adds an extra playoff team. So those are that's the interesting stuff. Is you get 14 teams into the playoffs in total. 17 games does make it weird because you always played out the idea of, oh yeah, you can finish 500. But unfortunately, not anymore. Although I think they'd rather I think the NFL, Roger Goodell, the owners, I think they'd rather play an 18-game regular season, but they were able to agree on getting the 17. So see what happens down the road.
Yep. All right, let's go through some other comments. Jay Favor says Jameis Winston will have a great year. Watch. What do you think about Winston with New Orleans this year?
I think that Sean Payton's no longer there, so that creates issues. Got Michael Thomas back, which is interesting. I think Jameis is just one of those that, in spite of the fact that he got LASIK, do I trust Jameis? No. Was the first game of last year where he threw 5 touchdown passes against the Packers in Jacksonville. Let's all remember that. It wasn't even in New Orleans because of a hurricane. I don't know if that was maybe the anomaly. Jameis is, of course, coming off of an ACL tear. So these are the interesting things that come up is, does Michael Thomas make him that much better? But is he that kind of good with no Sean Payton? I think that's the problem. So I think you're more likely to get the 30-30 Jameis in his last year at Tampa Bay than you are to get a Jameis that legitimately takes this team on a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I think he'll have to do short passes if he doesn't throw that many picks. He has to be like really conservative, and they're not going to do too much damage if they do that.
Probably true. And using Alvin Kamara more and Kamara being healthy the entire year will be helpful. Those are the things that I just don't know that, although I forget whether I think it's Chris Olave that they drafted. So they got that rookie receiver on the other side that I think will help out with Michael Thomas being back and a couple of the other sort of lower level receivers that have been in New Orleans for a while. But I just don't know if, like, without the Sean Payton mind and the Sean Payton offensive brand, if Jameis is nearly as good as he was starting to look last year.
Yeah. Jay Favor says again, Saints have a good defense.
True. Not wrong.
I remember the Bears, they had Grossman, was 2005, 2006. That defense was one of the best in my lifetime. I wasn't alive during the 85 Bears. You were, but I don't know how they won some games. Like, I remember Rex Grossman had a passing rating of 13 or something like that, and they still won the game double digits. I don't know how they did that. That was just insane.
Yeah, that Bears defense back in kind of the middle part of the 2000s there, that was a defense that probably only rivals more modern times the Ravens Super Bowl winning team from early 2000 or 2001 or something like that.
Yeah.
With Ray Lewis and that group. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously there's that line. I'm not a Bears fan, but I respect the organization. Um, I respect the team historically. The organization is a different story.
Yeah.
But with what they had back then, like with Urlacher and Peanut Tillman and
Briggs.
with that defense that Lovey had put together, like it was kind of on a different level. Like they were built to sustain whatever level of quarterback they had. That's always been the Bears' problem, is that the quarterback and the receivers were never as good as they needed to be. And I don't know if Fields is that guy, solely for one reason. Historically, Ohio State quarterbacks have not fared very well in the NFL. That's just facts. I don't know what else to tell you.
Wait, didn't Joe Burrow go to Ohio State at one point? And
transferred to LSU.
He transferred to LSU, so you could say that.
Spent his last 2 years at LSU. He won the Heisman and a national championship at LSU. He is an LSU grad.
Okay.
I will not give Ohio State that much love. Because on the flip side of all of this, people, I am a Michigan fan. I will not give Ohio State that much love.
Did you go to Michigan?
I did not, but I've been a lifelong Michigan fan.
All right. So speaking of Michigan, I see that you have a Lions shirt. I don't think people can see that you have a Lions shirt. So, yeah. So what's up with your Lions? Like they never do well. What's going on? And the division that we're in, like it's horrid. Maybe the Packers. I mean, the NFC North?
Yep.
And I remember as a kid, Brett Favre, I used to joke around. I said that he ruined my childhood because he beat the Bears all the time. And then they had Aaron Rodgers,
yep.
Thereafter. I'm like, okay, this sucks as a Bears fan. And I wasn't around, like I said, for the 85 Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Lions. See, this is the fun part. So, I am a Lions fan because of my dad. My dad grew up in the state of Michigan. It was his team. And back when my dad was a kid in the 1950s, when he was a teenager, the Lions were the best team in the league. It was the Lions and the Browns. And those are the best teams. And those two teams are two of the four that have never played in a Super Bowl. So, what's wrong with the Lions? Everything. It's always been wrong. And I don't dislike the Ford family in any particular way, but William Clay Ford Sr. was always probably more loyal to a fault. God rest his soul. Martha Firestone Ford was certainly willing to push the team in a new direction, but she already handed it over to her daughter, Sheila Ford Hamp. And I think Sheila is trying to truly push this team to be a winner. And I think bringing in Brad Holmes, I think bringing in Dan Campbell as the head coach, bringing in the rest of the coaching staff that Campbell and Holmes have put together, bringing in John Dorsey, who's been a GM, but is kind of a special assistant to the GM. Having those minds, having those people, having former players as building out the coaching staff at the head coaching position, at the defensive coordinator position, at pretty much every position coach played in the league for a certain amount of time. And while I'm not 100% caught up on Hard Knocks this year, man, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Like Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes have me feeling good about this team. Are they going to be more competitive this year than they were last year when they were 3-13-1? Yeah, I believe they will be. What does that mean? Well, hell, they may not win more than 6 games. I don't believe the schedule favors them terribly well, but they may do enough that they'll put a scare into some people, and they might win more than I think they're going to. They might be just that little bit above 500, and if they are, great. We're still building. This is a young team. Jared Goff he's a veteran, but he's not the veteran guy that we had. We traded that guy, and we've gotten and that extra pick that we got from the Rams that turned into trading up to take Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle's still coming off of that ACL tear in the national championship game from Alabama, but Jalen Waddle may very well have been the number one guy off the board had he not torn his ACL. So Jalen Waddle's going to slowly come into it, and maybe he plays this year and maybe he doesn't. But whether you redshirt him or not, that makes the wide receiver group that much better. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a great rookie year. If DeAndre Swift can step it up, and if we find some decent linebackers, it starts to get better and better. That offensive line is probably about as good as it's ever been in my lifetime. Again, I'm 41. It should have been better at some point. This is a team that had Barry Sanders. It wasn't the offensive line that made Barry good. Barry was one of the best.
Speaking of Barry Sanders, we have this one comment by Vintage Sports Cards. He says, Lions wasted Sanders, maybe the greatest running back ever, and Megatron, maybe the greatest wide receiver ever. I don't know about the greatest wide receiver ever, but they're pretty damn good, both of these guys. So,
right.
And I don't know how you waste a talent like that, to be honest. Those two talents.
It's pretty rough. Barry played for 10 years. Calvin played for 9. You basically had both guys retire early and basically in their prime. So that's a rough thing. Calvin, it probably top 5 when you get down to it, because it's probably Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens. I feel like there's someone just in that number 4 spot that's just above Calvin, but maybe it's Calvin at 4. Barry, the one thing I've always seen, and the one thing that most people seem to agree on, is there are 3 running backs that basically make up the top, that are basically the elite of the elite historically in the NFL. And that agreement tends to be Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders. Sort it out however you want, but nobody gets mad about those being the top 3. And if anybody does, you can try to come up with somebody else, but there really isn't anybody else that kind of good as those 3 guys. Jim Brown retired early. Walter Payton, whose career spanned such a time where I was a child. Like, I was not watching football during the prime of Walter Payton's career. So, but I'm a historian of the game. So I know, looking back at film, what kind of good Walter Payton was, where Jim Brown stands when it comes to the running back game in the NFL. It's those 3 guys. Flatly. That's it. So, yeah, did the Lions manage to find ways to waste talent? Of course they did. But a lot of the teams do. It just seems like the Lions managed to do it on a different level.
Yeah. So, Marvelous Pax, what's going on? He says Barry Sanders is the greatest running back I've ever witnessed. Yeah, I would have to agree, because I was maybe a baby when Walter Payton was at the end of his career. So, and then what I remember is Barry Sanders, and every time he ran against the Bears, he used to like run in circles, and he got like still 30 yards. I was insane watching him. Like some of the younger guys here. I mean, just watch some of the tape of Barry Sanders. It was insane.
Yeah. No, Barry was. It's sort of electric to watch those highlights. There are some great ones that I can remember, and Barry was drafted in '89. At that point, I would have been 8 years old. Um, and basically, like the sort of formative years when I was truly like getting deeper and deeper into football. Barry was the one I remember watching, and it was so fun to watch because he'd stop and start so fast, and then all of a sudden he would just kind of like spin and leave somebody just grasping at air, and then 75, 80 yards later, he's in the end zone and everybody else is exhausted. It's just fun to watch.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Yeah, I had to change to my phone, so it's weird. That's why I had my phone on last minute.
All right.
Yeah. So where were you? Barry Sanders.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that got picked up in our stream here or not.
I don't know if it
But
did.
yeah, like Barry it was just that kind of fun to watch. I I think there's a few different things I would probably point to. Try to find highlights of John Lynch, former Buccaneers safety, grasping at air. That's fun to watch. Find some footage of Barry turning a defensive back for the Patriots around in circles, because it's funny how Barry made that guy look silly.
Yeah. Now I think. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to change back to my computer. I guess my internet went off for a minute, but I heard what you were saying.
Let's see. One of my favorites is the year that the Lions went to the NFC Championship game. Only time that they ever have. That was a year that they went 12-4. They were the number 2 seed. They had a bye, played Dallas before Dallas was good, like truly good, and beat the ever loving shit out of Dallas. But Barry runs into a crowd, disappears, and then all you see is Tony Casillas looking around. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? All of a sudden, Barry's gone, and Casillas finally turns around, realizes Barry's past him, and I'm not even sure that he moves because Barry's 35 yards down the field, and the Lions are scoring again. And I was probably 10 during that playoff game. That is the only playoff game this team has ever won in the Super Bowl era, and that makes me sad.
All right. Let's look at some other comments here. I see some comments about Emmitt Smith and the Cowboys.
Stop it.
So the NFC East, what do you think about that this year? Just same old, just average division, just nothing happens.
Probably, yeah. Is that bad? Is that bad to say?
Yeah.
No, I think, let's see. So the Giants, new head coach, Brian Daboll. Does that make it worthwhile? I don't know. Will they be better, more competitive? Sure, why not? The Commanders, which is a god awful name, just by the way. For the fact of the matter that the former team name was a racial slur. Commanders is awful. Washington football team, I could have lived with. I could have lived with that till the end of time. That would have been fine. Commanders is awful. Do I believe in Carson Wentz? No, not really. Do I believe in Ron Rivera? Yeah. Are they going to be competitive? Sure. But what does that do? Philly, is Philly better? Sure, they've got AJ Brown now. They're giving Jalen Hurts every possible chance to continue to be that starting quarterback. And what? I don't think the Philly's that good. Dallas, are they better? I don't know. Are they good enough to win a Super Bowl? Maybe. Should they win this division again? Yeah, probably. But do they make any noise? I mean, it's been a while since Dallas has made noise. The last Super Bowl they won was 1995. I think they've maybe won a small handful of playoff games since then. So I don't know, man. Like the NFC East does not impress me.
Yeah, indeed. I saw this. I like the Cowboys easily winning that division earlier.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's what Marvelous Pack says. And
what is the rest of this? My grandpa
my grandpa would slap me from his grave if I called Washington the Commanders. Oh boy. That's funny.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. They could have come up with so many other things.
Capitals. Why not the Capitals?
Because that name already exists in that city.
They could. I mean, it's licensed. It's licensed. Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, maybe the Washington Soldiers. I don't know. I think maybe that would have been better, or something patriotic.
I think they needed to find something that was starting with an R that would still play into the song that was created for that team so many decades ago.
Yeah.
Because the way that that hashtag HTTR that they used to have and the song that goes and gets played, like those are the things, like I think that's where they needed to find something with an R, like Red Hawks or Red Hogs. And I mean, the Hogs is a historical reference back to their offensive line in the 1980s. And while it sounds stupid, it's probably slightly better than Commanders, if we're being honest.
Indeed. So out of the NFC, okay, the Super Bowl we talked about potentially Tampa Bay. Who would you think would be the next team in line? I mean, the NFC seems weak, to be honest. I was thinking maybe Green Bay, but Green Bay still has weaknesses. They lost Davante Adams.
Yeah, and I don't know that Green Bay has I don't know if they've got the firepower and all of those other receivers. And in spite of the fact that you trade Davante Adams, you still didn't draft a receiver in the first round, which continues to be funny to me because that was part of where Aaron Rodgers had gotten so in his feelings a couple years ago when they drafted Jordan Love in the first round. So yeah, well, I agree that the Packers probably end up winning the NFC North. They win that division, probably win it easily. But I don't know if they've got everything they need. They have a pretty solid defense still, as far as I'm aware.
How are their special teams? Is it any better? I mean, that was a disaster in the playoffs.
That was the playoff disaster. So I don't know. I suppose they probably made some changes to improve that, but I guess we'll find out. I don't know if they're any better there. And I don't know how Green Bay plays their starters during preseason. I know that, like, for instance, Sean McVay and the Rams, they choose not to play their starters during the preseason. Maybe that was part of the problem for them the other day.
Could have been.
But yeah, if we're looking through it, I mean, the top 4 teams, just as you're kind of considering division winners in the NFC, yeah, it's probably Tampa, LA, Green Bay, and Dallas. I would probably have a bit more faith in those first two, in the Bucks and the Rams. But as I said earlier, I don't really have much faith in the Packers getting there because Aaron Rodgers has been to one, and it was Super Bowl 45, and we're coming up on Super Bowl 57. So, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now shifting gears to the AFC, I see this one comment. Marvelous Packs again says the QBs in the AFC are stacked. Indeed, I have more confidence in the AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
So we talked about the Bills earlier. I would say that the Bills, assuming Josh Allen doesn't get injured, they should be going to the Super Bowl. Now, then, who's behind the Bills? Is it KC again, even though they don't have Tyreek Hill? Is it maybe San Diego or what?
Well,
they're in LA now.
The LA Chargers now.
Yeah, LA Chargers. Yeah.
I don't.
I was confused.
First one's free roll. After that, we start finding you for calling them San Diego. But no, I understand why you did that. That's an easy mistake to make still. You know what? I really like the Chargers, but that entire AFC West is completely ridiculous. That is probably going to be the toughest division in the NFL this year. It is probably the most stacked QB division in all of football.
Even Carr? Even you think Carr is a upper tier QB? I don't consider him to be an upper tier QB. I'm more like an maybe average.
He's mid, and that makes that division that much better than every other division in football. Because let's just start with who won that division last year with Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes. We all know what Patrick Mahomes is. We all know what Patrick Mahomes should continue to be. That's electric. That's fire, right? Let's go to LA and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is young, but has already proven that he is more than capable of being that kind of guy. Have they made the playoffs? No. Will they? Yeah, they will. That's the come. Denver now has Russell Wilson. And whether they have the receivers that make Russell Wilson that much better, I think they've got a defense that should be more similar to what Seattle had when Russell was still young and on his rookie contract. And I think they've got enough of a running game. So I think Denver should be balanced. I think the Broncos should be really good this year. And I think the Raiders should actually be slightly better. They have a good defense. You added a top-tier, true number one wide receiver in Davante Adams. And Adams and Carr were college teammates. They wanted to be together. That's why Adams is in Las Vegas. So these are the things that make the Raiders that much better. And the thing is, mathematically, it would actually be possible, and it's never been possible before, but mathematically, it is possible for all four of those teams in the AFC West to make the playoffs.
Has that ever happened?
No, because it couldn't. There have been as many as 3 teams from a division make the playoffs before, because I'm pretty sure you can look back on the NFC side for sure, and I feel like there's a time or two where maybe it was the NFC East or the NFC North where you had 3 teams from the same division. And I want to say probably, actually may have been Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago. I'm not entirely 100% sure of that. And then I think on the other side, I think Dallas, Philly, and Washington may have all made the playoffs in a single year like that. And there are probably some other divisions where it's happened, and it's just stuff that I forget. But yeah, like the way it's lined up and with the 7 playoff teams, like it is truly possible and not out of the realm of possibility, of course, for Kansas City, Denver, Las Vegas, and LA to all make the playoffs on that side, which would be amazing because I think they're all that sort of good. But if we're getting back to kind of your original question, like, is it still Kansas City without Tyreek Hill? Yeah, for right now it is. The Chargers would be the next team up for me. Let's see, as we kind of work through, I still like Cincinnati. Cincinnati is one of those. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. I like what Cincinnati's got with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I know C.J. Uzama is gone. He's now with the Jets. But they've got Joe Mixon, however you feel about Joe Mixon, at running back. I really like Cincinnati, and I like Cincinnati over Baltimore in that division. I know what the Ravens are. I know the Ravens are always going to be good. That's not my problem. I just don't like the Ravens. And it's not a John Harbaugh thing. It's just the way that team got created. So I just have a thing against the Baltimore Ravens, and I have since they became the Baltimore Ravens. Namely because I didn't like the fact that Art Modell pulled the team out of Cleveland and turned them into a different team in Baltimore. So I go back to, God, that was 1995, I think. So I go all the way back to that. That's why I don't like the Ravens. And I think the Steelers will be right above 500 because Mike Tomlin has never had a year below 500. So why should that start now? Cleveland, I'm not even sure I want to get into all the nastiness that has become what Cleveland currently is now. That's a different story. But I like Cincinnati and Baltimore.
Who's their QB right now? Wait, since
well,
his name,
he's suspended. Gonna be Deshaun Watson.
But he's suspended, right?
He is now. That took a long time to get to that decision. It should not have taken that long.
Yeah. I'm shocked that he's still in the league, to be honest.
I'm surprised that the suspension isn't for a full season. It was originally 6 games. I think it got pushed to 11. I think 11 is where it's going to sit. Although I think the NFLPA was suing the NFL, and it was a whole thing. I don't know. Very strange stuff. But yeah. The fact of the matter is, like, I think it's Jacoby Brissett is the backup. So I think Brissett will once again rise to the starting position as he has in various places, which will be interesting, I guess. But, you know, that's a division where I like Cincinnati and Baltimore. I don't necessarily like the Ravens. So where else do we go with this? Obviously, Buffalo is the top of the AFC East and probably the top team in the AFC. And then we go to the AFC South. Well, Houston's awful. That's easy. Jacksonville should be improved because they are finally out from under the shadow of Urban Meyer. I like the Colts in that division, namely because I still don't have any real faith in Ryan Tannehill. Never have. I think he's solid. I don't think he's great.
Wait. You said the Colts? The Colts I thought is Matt Ryan.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of making a tangent there.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I like the Colts in that division, but it's because for the fact of the matter is that Tennessee has won that division, I think, like the past 5 years in a row or something like And anybody can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. But yeah, with Matt Ryan, who, while older, I think Matt Ryan just needed an offensive line again. Matt Ryan was getting beat to hell down in Atlanta. So even when they were continuing to draft these wide receivers and these tight ends and everybody in Atlanta, like giving Matt Ryan all of these weapons, if you don't give him an offensive line to keep him upright, it's not going to matter. So you go and Matt Ryan gets to Indy, and Indy's got a much better offensive line. They've got a running game with Jonathan Taylor that should still be just as good as it was a year ago. They've got a better defense. They may not have the exact same kind of weapons as Atlanta does, but the Colts are the team that I like in that division. I don't know if they're ready to make a Super Bowl run, but part of me kind of hopes that they are, because I do like Matt Ryan. I like Jonathan Taylor. I think Michael Pittman's really good. And I think that their GM, Chris Ballard, has done a really great job. And I think Frank Reich has done a great job there as well. And I have a lot of respect for Frank Reich, and I hope that he does get that Super Bowl, because I think Frank Reich deserves it from all of those years in Buffalo as a backup QB. And I know he got a ring when he was in Philly as the quarterback's coach there in Philly. Or actually, was it quarterback's coach or OC? It doesn't matter. But I think Frank Reich deserves like kind of the big one, like to really get it for from his own doing. And I think this is a team right now that is capable of doing that. I don't know if they have the firepower to get past a team like Buffalo, or Kansas City for that matter. But that's how I would see the AFC shaping up a bit.
So you think I'm gonna probably wrap this up in the next few minutes and maybe see who. So you think the AFC would be between the Bills and the KC Chiefs?
I think that's your most likely scenario. But Bills, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Bills, Ravens, something along those lines.
You're that bullish on the Ravens? And interesting.
I just, for everything that I said, I just think that the Ravens have enough pieces that when Lamar stays healthy, and it's not that I necessarily like or dislike Lamar Jackson, but when Lamar is healthy, because he did miss quite a bit of the end of last season, but when Lamar is healthy, he's dangerous. We all know that. We've all seen it.
Was he dangerous when he was a few years younger and when he had more, how should I say it? I mean, like when you're young, you could run like crazy, and then you get older, you have injuries, and then you still are fast, but not as fast as you used to be. And I mean, I think that's, in my opinion, the limitation of Lamar, as talented as he is. I just don't. I mean, like at 22, 23, he was phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. But I'm just looking at.
The thing to remember, though, is I'm pretty sure Lamar was working on negotiating his new deal. And because they've arrived at the beginning of the season, they cut off negotiation talks. So he'll play under the 5th year of his rookie contract. So let's keep that in mind. He's not that old. And he came into the league probably at 21, because I think he left Louisville a year early. So that's one of those things where, and I don't remember exactly what the injury was, but I just remember that the injury was enough to keep him out and to keep him from playing. And maybe that was more precaution because if they felt like Huntley was going to maintain things, then they probably didn't necessarily see the urgency in getting Lamar back on the field. And then as they started to lose and lose and lose, and it started to slip away, as that division lead started to slip away, they probably just decided, you know what, he's not 100% right, but it wasn't a major injury as far as I'm aware. I don't recall exactly what it was. Anybody in the comments, if you remember what it was, feel free. But that's one of those things where, like, I think Lamar is still that sort of dangerous, but it's also because without any real effort, he and guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes just sort of like a flick of the wrist and the ball is 50 yards downfield without really trying. Like, he's still got that sort of arm. And they still have those kind of pieces that I think the Ravens are that kind of dangerous. Again, I don't like the Ravens. This is my problem. Is that I have to be respectful of the fact that whether it was Ozzie Newsome as the GM or whether it's I think the guy's name is Brian DaCosta, and I might be wrong on that, but and Ozzie Newsome is still a part of that organization in some form or fashion, but like, they always draft well, and they always coach their guys up, and they always get out of their guys what they need. So whether they draft in the top 10 or in the middle part of the first round or at the very end of the first round, they always find the right guys and they always make the right choice. It's so annoying.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
Especially if you're like us and you're fans of the lower level teams in the NFC North. It's just annoying to watch. It's like, how does this happen all the time?
Exactly. I'll leave it on this now. You could share your predictions. I would say it's going to be the Bills and the Packers. Super Bowl, Bills win. I'm going to do a wild card with the Packers. And maybe the Packers get knocked out in the first round, and I look like a fool here. But that's just my prediction. Bills are going to be the Super Bowl champs. Your take. Super Bowl early next year. Who's going to be in there and who's going to win?
Who's going to be in there, man? I haven't actually really thought about it, but I think I like your Bills prediction on the AFC side. I think that's a good one. Bills finally getting their first Super Bowl win ever. Be huge. God, I don't know what would happen in the city of Buffalo in the middle of winter. I'm sure there would be massive fires that could be seen from space. But or that'll just be Bills Mafia at the airport, lighting tables on fire and crashing into them. I don't know which. Wow, Bills. You know what? I really like that side of it. I don't know if I like the Packers getting there. You know what? I honestly, I'm gonna go back to the old man. I'm gonna go back to Tom Brady. Bills Bucks, but Bills win.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I just don't see them winning. I just don't see the Bucks doing it again. But maybe Tom Brady has it in him again and prove all the haters wrong, and then just retire on top, and then his marriage is salvaged. That would be like a good ending. That would be a really happy ending, right?
It would be. One last ride. Yeah, no, I think, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a rematch of Thursday night's game between the Rams and Bills. I think that is just as easily an opportunity for a Super Bowl matchup, and quite frankly, it could have been last year's Super Bowl matchup had the Bills found a way to get by Kansas City. So we'll see, man. This is the fun part. Is everybody's got hope right now. It's what the draft does to me every year. because that's all I usually have to go off of. That is my Super Bowl. And at that rate, I felt like the Lions did a really good job in the draft. So, but this is where hope springs eternal. This is the fun part that we get into the season finally. Tomorrow's gonna be a fun day. I forget who your Bears. Oh yeah, your San Francisco comes in. So I think a buddy of ours, I think will be at that game. Actually, I believe. And I hopefully see what the Lions do against the Eagles, and just kind of roll from there. But this is always where this is the fun. Is you got an entire day of football tomorrow. Pretty much noon to midnight, roughly 10 to 10, 10:30 to 10:30, whatever you want to do. Got your pregame, got games all day long. Take that up through, I don't know, watching highlights on ESPN like I do. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get the Monday Nighter, and I don't even remember who the Monday Nighter is, to be honest. Let's see if I can pull that up. So we got, this is going to be fun. Before we wrap things up, Denver goes to Seattle.
Oh.
So Russell Wilson goes right back to Seattle, first game of the season. So that should be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Wrap things up on Monday for week 1 with that. That's going to be dynamite. I love that.
Indeed. So, yeah, thank you, Ben, for coming on. I think maybe before the playoffs start, you should come on, and maybe if you're interested in maybe a Super Bowl preview, I think that would be interesting.
All right, man. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.